Welcome back to another episode of the Casey Campbell podcast. Casey Campbell with you, of course. Pleased to be joined by Chris Willertz, the head football coach at Bay City Western. How's it going?
Good, Casey. Thanks for inviting me and doing this. This is awesome.
All right. So let me ask this: how did the summer go for you guys? How did everything all go?
Well, I think all high school coaches, it's never good enough. Um, we're always looking for better. We're looking for more resources, more kids coming out and playing. This year, we had some grass. We redid the track on our track. Um, so we redid our track, but we had to turn the water off to the field, right, because of all the construction. And so there was a mishap with them practicing, or excuse me, watering the practice fields. Uh, and so that was my crusade at the beginning of the summer was, oh my gosh, we're gonna have all this dead grass, and God provided with a ton of rain in July. So, and I think he did the same thing with having kids attend workouts and doing 7-on-7s and doing all those things that us football coaches are now trying to do before the actual season starts.
Absolutely. All right. Well, now it's time for the best part of the interview. It's where you get to talk about all the returners and all the guys coming back, and all the names to watch. So let's start with the offense, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, so a little background. I came to Bay City Western in 2018, and the previous season they were 0-9. And so we've been at Western. We've had to kind of put things back in place. So here we play in the Saginaw Valley League with both Traverse Cities, Central and Western, Mount Pleasant, both Midland High and Midland Dow, and then Bay City Central and us. And that's a very challenging conference. I think Traverse City's in the playoffs. Mount Pleasant was in the playoffs. Midland High and Midland Dow and us were all in the playoffs last year. And so we work cut out for us, for doggone sure. So we have to replace, as far as guys, right? We had a 5-4 seed, Division III. So we went 5-5. But I graduated a kid named Aiden Robinson, who led the conference in rushing last year, a first team all conference, all region. Kason Frost had 7 interceptions for us and was all region. Jackson Clark, our quarterback, we lost. So we got some key positions that have to be filled. And quite honestly, we're still trying to figure that out. But a couple of guys that I would say that I think that played last year on that team, I would say one would be True Warm Beer is his last name, True, True. And True is an offensive defensive lineman. He's about 6'4.5", 290, and he doesn't even look like he's 290. He's just really put together. And True he's been doing everything that you want him to do. So he'll play one of our tackle positions on offense and defensive tackle. And then it's like twin towers. His best friend is a guy named Chris Walter. And Chris came out last year for his first season as a junior. And Chris is 6'3", 290. And he placed at the state powerlifting meet last year. The state of Michigan runs a state powerlifting meet. So those are really my two dudes. I mean, if both of those guys show up every day for practice, work their rear ends off, and play well, I got a couple guys that are very, very obviously physical but aggressive. They both love to get after it, and so I love that I got some size. I would say a couple others would be a kid named Nick Doran. Doran. Nick is being recruited. Is probably our biggest recruit. Nick is being recruited by the GLIAC, Ferris State, Saginaw Valley, Northwood, etc. Nick is about 6'1". I think he'd probably get higher recruiting if he wasn't a little bit taller than 6'1", 6'1", 215. and he plays linebacker and quite possibly quarterback this year. He played tight end last year, but he played some as a sophomore. So Nick's a guy, and then as far as some other starters, a kid named Braden Simmon at wingback started last year. Noah Falon started last year. And who else? John Gerhauser. So we don't have a lot of returning starters, Casey. That's going to be one of our challenges. Is we got some good ones that are coming back. We just don't have a lot of returners because my senior class last year was so good.
Absolutely. Let's go to the defense now.
So defensively, like I would say, true is offense first, defense second. Chris Walter is defense first at defensive tackle, offense second. So Chris is a returner on defense. Nick Dorn, like I said, is a returning linebacker on defense. We have a defensive end named Brody Reeder, R-E-D-E-R, and Brody started the second half of the season. Brody's one of those converted basketball players where he didn't play football in middle school, and then we talked him into it, and now he loves it. He's one of those guys that is he's a convert, right? And converts are so powerful because they realize how awesome football is, right? It wasn't like they grew up on it, and it's just something that you take for granted. So Brody, and then defense, and that's it. That's all I have is three coming back, even though Braden Simmons played a little linebacker and Noah Falon played a little linebacker. Probably another guy I would throw in there is a kid named Gage Malin. Gage returned punts and kickoffs for us last year and played varsity and got time, but he wasn't a starter. But Gage is one of those little scat backs. He's like 5'6", 135 pounds, and you can't catch what you can't see. And so we're hoping that Gage becomes one of those guys for us this year on offense and on defense.
Yeah. Okay, so now let's go to special teams. Where are we at there?
Well, I'm hoping it's reloading and not rebuilding, right? That's what they say with championship programs, is that you reload instead of rebuild. I have we lost our three-headed monster, kid named Eli Malin. Eli Malin punted for us, kicked off for us, and kicked field goals and extra points. And he was first team all conference. He also ended up playing wingback for us and starting free safety. Kicked the winning field goal his sophomore year against Midland Dow in the first round of the playoffs. We are going to miss Eli Malin in the worst way. So that's my challenge, is who could be that guy? Or do I just run for two every time we score, go for two and squib, go for it on fourth down? So I would say that probably the one that's probably first in line is a kid named Brody Andros. Brody was our JV kicker last year, punter and kickoffs. And then we have a sophomore named Patrick Herndon, who has the ability. And then we also have we're trying to get a soccer convert, right? A soccer kid to come out and kick on Friday nights. Mm-hmm. And his name is Lucas Arnold. And, as a head coach, you do a lot of wheeling and dealing, talking to kids and parents. And so we're hoping Lucas could come play with us this year, so he can help out in those roles as well.
All right. Now we've talked about all the kids. Now let's talk about the upcoming schedule. And I know you mentioned some of the teams that are in your division in the beginning of the episode, but I'll just run through the schedule really quick. August 29th, season starts at Holly. September 6th at Petoskey. September 13th, home against Midland. September 20th, home against Midland Dow. September 27th at Flint Carmen Ainsworth. October 4th at Mount Pleasant. October 11th, home against Traverse City Central. October 18th at Traverse City West. And finishing out the regular season, October 25th, home against Bay City Central. So pretty good schedule. And this is a really tough division, as you mentioned before. But what is the division going to be looking like this year? And then, of course, the two-game road trip out of conference you're going to take at the beginning of the season.
Yeah, Mount Pleasant has been so good the last, as long as I've been here and before I got here, 8-9 years. They've won the Valley. I know they won it last year, and they've won it probably more than they've lost it the last couple of years. I know Midland High, I think that, and Midland High shared it 2 years ago. But Mount Pleasant is typically the front runner. That's how they've been. They had AJ Dennis last year, who went to wherever, and then that quarterback went to CMU, and he's always seems to have dudes, and they're so well coached. They're the top of in my opinion, the best team in the conference, and got to be considered the front runner. Midland High has a new coach, so that'll be interesting, right? Because whenever you have a new coach, there's always high expectations, but also big questions. Midland Dow was really settled in there. They had a great year last year, beating Midland High twice the last two games of the last game of the season and the first round of the playoffs. And then we also know how awesome Traverse City Central and West is. When we made the playoffs in 2021 as a Division II, we defeated Midland Dow and then went up to Traverse City and played Traverse City Central with that team that lost in the state final to De La Salle. So I think our kids are used to playing these guys, but, beating good teams away, I mean, that takes a lot of character, takes a lot of maturity, takes a lot of leadership. And then Bay City Central is our crosstown rival. So really the conference, every game in the conference is difficult. And then you got to get ready for every one of them. So we have our work cut out for us. Thank goodness we've been competitive the last 3 or 4 years, and our JV and our freshmen have been competitive as well. So we feel like we can compete. And if you can compete, then you got a chance every given Friday, right? We feel like we got some kids that can play. But then you look at Holly and Petoskey, and both Holly and Petoskey qualified for the playoffs last year also. We played Petoskey last year and defeated them during the regular season. And then they were the number 3 seed, and we were the number 4 seed. I think they won their game against Marquette and then lost to Gaylord. But we played them, and we know they're good. So we have 5, 6 playoff teams from last year on our schedule. So, our attitude is going to be, how can we handle with a bunch of young, I shouldn't say young, inexperienced seniors and juniors that are coming up from the JV? Will we have the chemistry, of course, but will we have the leadership and the attitude and I've not been there, but I believe in myself type of stuff. And that's hopefully what August 12th is going to help us start getting done. And
of course, I should mention August 12th is when all MHSA high school football teams, as well as all fall sports teams in the state of Michigan begin practice. So it's Monday is a big day in the state. So let's talk about what the next few weeks are going to bring. Of course, 2 weeks before that game against Holly on the 29th. Really, what are we looking at with your guys this year? And of course, also the scrimmage in a few weeks' time.
Yeah. When I first got to Western, I was living in Cincinnati. I was in Cincinnati for 28 years. Okay. And I had been out of football a little bit for a couple of years, but had coached at Cincinnati Moeller High School and some of those other big name schools that are literally known nationally. And I quickly realized that we didn't have the same talent as what I had down in Cincinnati. I wasn't a head coach down there. I was an assistant on several teams. So we said, okay, what are we going to do? So we try to get kids to come out and play football the first couple of years. And then in 2021, we said, what is going to be our identity? We have to do a better job of defining who we are at Bay City Western. And so we went with the single wing. We went old school and installed the single wing as our offense. And we're pulling 3 guys to the point of attack, and we're toe to toe, and we got smoke and mirrors. Counter was our best football play. and we had a great year. And so the last 2 years we've tried to replicate it with some success, but this year we've decided that we're going to stay with it, but we're going to move to the wing tee instead of the single wing. Come a little bit closer into the 21st century, and spread people out a little bit more. But if my Jimmies and Joes aren't as big as fast as your Jimmies and Joes, then coaches have to get creative. And so we want to be creative offensively and defensively, whether that's pressuring, stunting, and angling, to give our kids an opportunity and a chance. So if you were to come out to a Bay City Western football game, I think you would see a lot of stuff. A high school kid, a coach kind of knows what's going on when all the smoke and the mirrors are going, when a guy goes this way and another guy goes this way.
Yeah.
We as coaches are trained that we know that whoever's pulling helps identify the play. But a 17-year-old kid who's prepared for your offense in 4 days, that's not the same. So if you were to come and watch us play, my hope would be that you wouldn't know who's got the football until we've run past you. And defensively, our hope would be that you don't know who's going in what gap and who's coming off what edge until we make the tackle in the backfield. And we play fast and hard and strong, and we got a chance to win, right? Because that's all you can ask for, right? You got a dude on the other side and a lot of kids on the other side wanting the same thing. You got injuries. You got teenage boys doing stupid things like teenage boys do from time to time.
Yeah.
And you just go into games saying, let's represent, play as hard as we can. And you can't stake your reputation on your win-loss record. You stake your reputation on, are you developing boys into men? And that's what you could get if you were to see a Western football game.
All right. Well, Chris, thank you so much for the time as always. And best of luck to the Warriors coming up this season.
Okay, hey means we're going to get it done. That's one of the rough translations. Crazy Horse said that, and that's one of our mottos we borrowed from Rick Darlington down in Florida is okay. So, Casey, okay.